Señores, el karma es dulce, pero más aún cuando cae encima de Donald Trump. Eso es exactamente lo que sucedió, justo luego de que estuviera celebrando algunas victorias preocupantes en la Corte Suprema. Llegó uno de los golpes legales, que ya les digo amigos, es uno de los más brutales que ha recibido desde que entró en la política. Publicó una serie de los típicos delirios en Truth Social, esos posts delirantes, y de repente le cae encima una demanda que podría hacer pedazos uno de sus planes más extremos y peligrosos. Antes de que entremos en los detalles más interesantes y más importantes, tenemos que empezar por el momento en el cual Trump, como siempre, empezó a presumir. Y bueno, terminó cavando su propia tumba.
Thanks for this decision, and thanks to this decision, we can now promptly file to proceed with numerous policies that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis. And some of the cases we're talking about would be ending birthright citizenship, which now comes to the fore. That was meant for the babies of slaves. It wasn't meant for people trying to scam the system and come into the country.
Luego de las decisiones que tomó la Corte Suprema, Donald Trump prácticamente salió a alardear sobre su plan de destruir uno de los pilares más importantes en el sistema estadounidense, que es la ciudadanía por nacimiento. Donald Trump prácticamente viene obsesionado ¿cuántos años con eliminar este derecho constitucional que es garantizado por una enmienda? Pero bueno, no se conformó con presumirlo en una conferencia de prensa, porque se fue directo a su red social a dejar por escrito su fantasía autoritaria. Fue justo luego de esas publicaciones que le cayó encima una demanda tremenda. Pero bueno, primero veamos qué es lo que escribió. Hoy es un gran día, una decisión monumental, acompañado de un video suyo presumiendo sus victorias en la Corte. Y luego agregó, gran victoria en la Corte Suprema de Estados Unidos. Incluso el engaño de la ciudadanía por nacimiento ha sido golpeado indirectamente. Y bueno, por si fuese poco, se puso a divagar sobre bebés de esclavos, la Constitución y teorías locas sobre la inmigración, que bueno, no tiene ni pies ni cabeza. Todo como siempre para poder justificar lo injustificable. Pero bueno, ese subidón de ego no le duró nada, porque de inmediato se anunció una demanda colectiva, una a nivel nacional, y apunta directamente a bloquear su intento para acabar con la ciudadanía por nacimiento. Vamos a revisar este informe. Grupos de defensa de los derechos de los inmigrantes presentaron hoy una demanda colectiva federal contra la orden ejecutiva de Trump que restringe la ciudadanía por nacimiento. La demanda responde al fallo de la Corte Suprema que, según algunos juristas, podría haber abierto la puerta para aplicar parcialmente esa orden. Pero bueno, ahora esa misma puerta podría cerrarse de golpe. Raskin lo ha dejado muy claro. Esta demanda tiene el potencial no solo de frenar este ataque específico, sino también de exponer toda la maquinaria legal inconstitucional que Trump y su equipo han estado armando solo para socavar los derechos fundamentales. Esta entrevista de Raskin vale mucho la pena y bueno, voy a dejarles un fragmento donde él explica por qué es que este tema de la Corte Suprema y este tema de las acciones legales van a ser devastadoras contra Trump.
Today, in her dissenting opinion of Trump v. CASA, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson wrote, "Our rights-based legal system can only function properly if the executive and everyone else is always bound by law." Today's decision is a seismic shock to that foundational norm. Allowing the executive to violate the law at its prerogative with respect to anyone who has not yet sued carves out a huge exception, a gash in the basic tenets of our founding charter that could turn out to be a mortal wound. Justice Brown's powerful dissent today raised many questions in my mind, in your minds, questions that no doubt many of you are asking yourself about what this all means. Questions about the implications of today's Supreme Court decision on our Constitution, on the law, on our rights. Chief among them, what happens when the highest court in the land seemingly allows a carve-out for the executive branch to violate the Constitution? Luckily, I have the perfect, one of my favorite, probably one of your favorite too, constitutional scholars to ask. Joining me now is Democratic Congressman of Maryland, Jamie Raskin. He is, as I just mentioned, a constitutional scholar and also the ranking member of the House Judiciary Committee. One of the things, it's great to see you, and I'm so grateful to get to talk to you on a day like this, which is a difficult one. But one of the things I started the show with was talking about how of the three branches of government, two seem to have surrendered at this point, in large part. I mean, certainly the legislative branch and large swaths of the court, not the lower courts, but with this ruling today. Should I take a breath? Are you alarmed? How do you kind of see this ruling?
Well, it is an instructive tale about how many conservative Republicans have completely capitulated, but the people have not given in. On the contrary, the people are becoming more engaged and more outraged by every offense against the Constitution. Look, we've beaten Donald Trump 7 times in court on birthright citizenship. In 4 district courts, 2 Republican judges, a Reagan and Bush judge, 2 Democratic judges, Obama and Biden judge, and 3 appeals courts. 100% of the cases have said that his birthright citizenship executive order is completely unconstitutional, or as the Reagan judge put it, blatantly unconstitutional. He said in his 4 decades on the bench, this is by far the easiest case because of what he'd done. So you get a completely Trumpified, gerrymandered court stacked and packed by Donald Trump, and they know that they can't rule against the Constitution on this substance, so they pull a rabbit out of a hat and they decide that the Judiciary Act of 1789 has been misinterpreted basically for centuries, and that federal district courts do not have the discretion to impose a nationwide injunction, even if they're looking at something blatantly unconstitutional. Can you imagine this court doing that if a Democratic judge had, for example, issued an executive order seizing everybody's assault weapons in the country? Do you think they would say, well, you've got to go to every single district court in America, to 94 district courts? Or do you think they would allow the universal injunctions that were being issued, for example, by Judge Kaczmarek, the right-wing theocrat Republican judge, the only judge in Amarillo, Texas? And you know how the GOP was lined up around the block to get into his chamber so he could issue a nationwide injunction on culture war cases like mifepristone. But instead, they decide to use this case to completely overturn and revolutionize the doctrine of the equitable jurisdiction of a federal district court. So I'm with Justice Sotomayor. I'm with Justice Jackson. I'm outraged by this. But having said all that, the people are tough, and the Constitution is tough, and the people and the Constitution are going to stick together on this. We've beaten them in 4 district courts across the land. If we've got to beat them in 94 district courts, we will do that. If we got to beat them in every appeals court in the country, then we will do that, because people are standing up in every city and town to defend the basic elements of our constitutional system. And one of them is that if you're born in America, you're a citizen here.
Which it should be, and they will rule. I mean, I think everybody expects they will consider that the merits of that in the next term. To your point, I just wanted to read this quote about what Sotomayor gave that I think was you were referencing in part. She said in her in her dissent, the gamesmanship in this request is apparent, and the government makes no attempt to hide it. Yet shamefully, this court plays along. Let me ask you, because you've referenced this about the strength, and I started the show talking about this too, the strength of the country, the strength of the people. You have state attorneys general who are out there. I just talked to 2 of them who are ready to fight this. You have the potential for class action cases. What happens here next? What would you like to see happen here next with the resources that are possible? There are limitations in Congress. You're still in the minority.
Yeah. Well, there was a kind of carve-out or a limited carve-out to this very constricting judgment for state attorneys general. And the majority had to acknowledge that a state attorney general acting in parens patriae for the people has got to represent everybody in order to have complete relief, as they put it in that case. So we got to take the state attorney generals seriously. If I were a Republican attorney general, I'd be very nervous right now, because everybody in those states is going to be looking to them. And if they don't act, then you know, every AG position in America should be up for grabs for people who are willing to stand up for the Constitution against a gangster state president who thinks he can do whatever he wants, even in direct violation of the text of the Constitution. Where are all the textualists now? Where are all the originalists now? They are making this up. Where did this doctrine come from that you can abolish birthright citizenship? Did the stork bring it? You know, and so Justice Jackson did a magnificent job in her dissenting opinion, where she said, let's center what the constitutional violation is. This is not even a close case. So why would we get into all of the procedural games that the majority wants to plunge us into? Why don't we just decide that birthright citizenship is protected, as it has been since the Constitution was amended in 1868, when the radical Republicans had Congress overturn the Dred Scott decision? Why don't we just stand by that, and then we don't even need to get into this other question at this point of nationwide injunctions? But they're constantly appeasing Donald Trump and soothing his very easily wounded ego.
No question about that. Let me ask you, in the minute or so we have left here, I mean, you're a close watcher of the court. We all are. There were other rulings today. There have been other rulings. This is the last day. What do you make of the Supreme Court's rulings this term? How do you see it? There were some surprises, but not many.
Well, I mean, a good example is the one that actually took place in my home county, which I represent in Congress, the Montgomery County school case. You know, there had been a policy in Montgomery County that your family or your kids could opt out of certain kinds of lessons. That policy was changed, whether wisely or not. But in any event, then some parents went to court to say that they had a constitutional right to opt out. And of course, because of the particular political dynamics of the case, the MAGA element on the court rushed to embrace it without considering what the real implications of that are. If you can opt out of teachings that mention gay people, for example, because it offends your sincere religious beliefs, well, then why can't you opt out of a science class that mentions evolution if that conflicts with your religious beliefs? Why can't you opt out of a class?
Amigos, este es el tipo de luchas que se necesita hoy por hoy. Porque mientras Trump y sus aliados en la Corte Suprema intentan rehacer el país a su imagen, una imagen de odio, de exclusión y autoritarismo, aún hay gente que está peleando en las Cortes, en el Congreso, hasta en las calles, para defender los valores que realmente son los que definen Estados Unidos. Muchísimas gracias por acompañarme hasta el final de este video. Recuerda, como siempre, dale like, compártelo con tus amigos y suscríbete a nuestro canal Políticamente en Desacuerdo. Nos vemos en el próximo video. Hasta luego.